Hey everyone, and welcome back to Trekyards. He is Commander Cockings.
He's got a Foley.
And oh boy, do we have some OTOY to talk about.
Oh my.
Today to talk about, or continue talking about, the Unification released by OTOY.
And we did our first reaction, which some of the wonderful creatives jumped on and talked to us in the chat. So go look at that for our very much our first reaction.
Sam Witwer, the actor, we had the director, we had the
Lead
cinematographer, and one of the visual effects guys in our chat.
Now this one, though, is going to be more of a detailed breakdown. You know, I know a bit about CG faces. I do it quite a lot for my own Trek shorts. And we're going to look at how they, you know, a lot of the comparative things and sort of break down a lot of this stuff in a way that only Trekyards is going to do, including some stuff you might not have seen and some flaws maybe that I was able to pick up because it's interesting. I find interesting, right, Stuart? But let's start off where they started off with an unexpected guest, as in, oh my goodness, it's Gary Mitchell. Now this is an example of them doing a full CG face versus the later ones, which are a hybrid technique.
Yep, looks exactly spot on. Exactly like it should. The hair coloring and everything is... I don't see any problems with it.
But how real does it feel? That's the question. How close are we getting for the full CG versus the other stuff?
I think 95%, in my opinion. Still has like a video game cinematic quality to it.
Like top tier one, though.
But like very, very top tier. But yeah, it's close. It's so close for me.
Yeah, it's also, you know, weird lighting because he's staring at a sun or something of the ilk. So it's not normal. Yeah, I was impressed how I forgot he had grey hair, and even the stubble level is incredibly accurate. But yeah, this for me definitely still a CG character, but he's not doing much more beyond sort of being there. But the effort to do this, faces are the hardest thing to do because you know when it's not right, and I commend them for doing extra. And yes, it's very, very close. This has been the process behind it. We found a few screen caps. As you can see, there's full CG reference throughout this. They did go and talk to Gary, who played the actor many years ago. My assumption is just they asked him to film, how would you do this scene? Because they you know, faces a bit different, etc. But, you know, a sense.
Yeah, and I mean, they kind of went above and beyond to go talk to him about it because it was so long ago. He looked so different. They didn't need him necessarily for it, but I love that they actually did touch base with him and try to talk to him about it because...
And what's great about OTOY is that while most fans are going to recognize these visuals, they are pulling them from previous sources, from comics and things that they've seen. So it's all kind of inspired while still being their own take. And you can see the previs and the build-up and the process. Now, the next show I want to really highlight, because before we get into the Kirk stuff, we get this Kirk stuff, which of course is Sam Witwer's back of his head and his body and his arm. No effects needed, Stuart. But I love the fact that they're going with this surrealist nature. The top shot has an incredibly shallow depth of field, so it gives everything a kind of ethereal look, sort of nexusy in a vibe. And the bottom one, of course, has a very unique lens choice to create a, you know, circular bokeh out of focus, which again is very unusual, but both create a vibe that is part of this. You know, they're not just adding CG face on top of people; they're doing some artistry here, and I wanted to highlight the work.
First started watching this, I thought this felt very, like you said, ethereal, almost Nexus-like, and I wondered if it was his arrival in the Nexus or something else he did in the Nexus. We still don't have any clear answers as to what's going on, so that could be the case, but...
Which I think is part of the charm, right? They're doing this on purpose to, you know, build a vibe, and I think these sort of, yeah, it's a good team. Then we get to Kirk himself, and we get into the CG. I have lots of varied points in this, but this is a direct comparison. I did scroll through Generations to try and find, of course not identical, but at least similar, because we're now at the point where it's not about does it look like Kirk, it's about the subtlety, the expression, the lighting, the other stuff. So we've not looked at these side by side. I'm sure you haven't gone and traped the internet to try and find a close still. What do you think? How do you feel? Talk to me.
It's a little surprising, honestly, because I thought that they did a really good job in this short, but haven't seen them side by side. There are a few differences, obviously. Well, lighting-wise, even just the color of the monster maroon is quite different. The hairs could just be different lighting conditions. They definitely captured the look they were going for, and like you said, if you don't do the side by side, your brain kind of goes, "Yeah, that looks almost 100% perfect," right? So.
Well, this is worth pointing out that this is all these screen caps and Generations are from the Blu-ray release, where they over-sharpened everything and gave it kind of a very crisp feel. So the hair looks overly sharp, and it's wrong. And the way his wrinkles are too much. There is a 4K version, But there's confusing things about that to do screen cap. So that would be flatter and more organic. So in fact, his skin would be closer to the ones we see. It's just the generations is over sharpened. Yeah, what's interesting is that now when you get into the absolute minutia, in this sort of performance, which is where Lawrence, the actor that played Spock, face shape is one of the key things. His face shape is very similar to Nimoy, which means the overlay makes more sense. Sam Witwer is some close, but he's doing 3 different Kirks, 3 different face sizes. That is a factor. Sam's face is probably not quite as large as William Shatner's was at his last movie. And so you are not stretching, but there's a slight disconnect because of course there is, right? But it's a trade-off that is absolutely wonderful, and because the acting he gives is super amazing. And he mentioned lighting. Which lighting is better, or which lighting serves Kirk better? Because they are different.
I would say the one in the OTOY one, because it's a softer light. I think they both look fine for different reasons, just different times of the day.
Well, in fact, I specifically tried to find a flat Generations Kirk image because, for the most part, Viridian, of course, bright sun, in the house, bright sun. This is flat. It gives you a sense. But yeah, you still get those more distinct lighting choices in real life, because guess what? Real life is real life, right? OTOY has a sort of, artificial is the wrong word, but flat feeling. Now, what does that remind you of? It reminds you of this, of course.
Oh, wow.
Now, look how similar they feel.
Yeah, no kidding.
This is, of course, the current cutting edge of AI, of CG face replacement, which is exactly the same thing. It's an actor with the CG face applied and then post-work. Now, they did a wonderfully clever thing versus the first time they used him in Mandalorian. They shot him almost, and this is not super flat, but it's flatter than, it's balanced. And the lighting is incredibly similar, because without those harsh lighting conditions, it's kind of easy to work with. So what do you think?
You can tell that they're related. It's literally the lighting. They've chosen something that I think might hide certain imperfections. I don't know necessarily. They just feel very much the same.
Now the budget is probably significantly higher on Luke.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Given this is an independent company production and Lucasfilm, what I'm intrigued by is the seam lines, because, and this is interesting, I didn't quite realize, I think Shatner's better here, which is a testament to being a year later. Part of that, I think, is that when you look at Luke, it's different in motion, is that you can almost see that there's this line around his head, as if they've shifted the CG face to fit into the actor's face really well. But it's been shifted to fit the face. Whereas Shatner, I think that is his proportions, and they've allowed more of Sam's face to be blended together. So you're actually seeing more of Sam's cheek with a blend of the CG face. So Shatner is better in the image, but getting more of Sam as well. Whereas the other one, it's the actor into the face. It feels more like a cohesive character because it's all one thing, but it's not Luke, it's Luke's face on actor.
Yeah, and I don't think for the Luke Skywalker one that they had an actor in prosthetics. I think the prosthetics that they did on Sam really added to the illusion, and like you said, you could use more of the actual physical face as a result of that. So
yeah, that's actually a wonderful way of saying it. Like if they'd matched his chin, like given a bigger chin or bigger, then that would obviously help you create the seam. Because if the face you've created in CG expects there to be a cheek here or a chin here, by actually adding it to the actor, you're doing something real. Now, we just had this whole thing, knowing where I'm going with this. So flat lighting, right? It's the best that they could do on Mandalorian. Wonderful. Vabam. Wait, no. 10 seconds later, they take a generational leap. Because that's not flat lighting, that's incredibly hard lighting.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that? In motion and the side. Because sides are really difficult because you're now adding an edge onto an edge, which has to have camera tracking.
Yeah, I was really impressed when I saw this. Still am. It looks fantastic. Later, even at the end, where you see the side of his face when he's looking at the sunset, it's spot on. I'm glad they have a different lighting here to kind of, I don't know, show off their work. It really comes across. I mean, the hair feels a little wonky color-wise, but it's not a huge issue.
Yeah, well, the first shot, like I say, is them setting up we can match Lucasfilm, and then they go beyond that, and as you said, later on we see even more. But what's amazing here is that there is no seam line that I can see on the first picture between the harsh lighting of a real face and a CG face. Because they're both being lit but differently but the same. Or the software is able to re-add the light. Like, that's really, really difficult. And the way it's contouring across the face is superb. Now, that said, on the right-hand picture, I feel like I can kind of see the edge on his sideburn line because it's so much darker. But that's also just the lighting, right? You didn't see it in motion, but you might be seeing... The software thinks the face should be slightly darker, and so you can almost see where it's filled in the gap, possibly. I do think the sideburn is a useful, line to work on. The hair, I think, is very good. And this is where I think by having a real set, the little fragments of hair helps to sell the realism because Kirk's hair was always a bit frizzy, like a little bit, and here it is. But yeah, really amazing. Like that first still, you would easily fool 9.9 people out of 10 that left one is Shatner. But then, Stuart, they push even further into the realms of what are you doing? First of all, this is a beautiful shot anyway, but then they have a CGI face on top of an actor emote. And this is 3 examples of very different emotions expressed very well in the same shot. Now, how do you feel? Because in motion, you can't see it this literally. So what do you think is staring at this?
Well, first off, I want to say that I found the micro expressions that Kirk did phenomenally good. They definitely invoked William Shatner. And it's hard to, when you're getting a still frame of Kirk in particular, capture that. It's a very quick little movement, and if you capture the beginning or the end of it, you don't necessarily get it across. But yes, there's so many subtleties, and not just in Sam's performance, but like, I don't know what they had to do as far as over top of that, but I think they definitely nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the most technically ambitious bit, having non-dialogue, locked off, full-frame discussion with his eyes, and these are 3 entirely readable human emotions. But not just that, but I see, especially the last one, I think, I see Kirk in all 3. I see whatever William Shatner did, and so it's now, because you can just do a CG face on just performing, but the fact that a fake face is there's always something, we're trained as humans to understand other humans, and when something's not quite right, the fact that you can read these emotions so well, that's the hump, right? The layer to go past. He performed through this, and I felt like it was Kirk. And it might be the eyes, like partially, or the subtlety of the way it interacts with just this part, because each of those eyes are different. Just the eye portion. And those aren't Sam's eyes, because his eyes are presumably a different shape and a different colour. That's absolutely incredible, right?
Like, okay, how good are they actually going to do Shatner? And it really came across. And been watching Star Trek my whole life. Kirk's one of my heroes. I was looking for that, and I was really impressed. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's only when you sort of still frame it like this, you realise the depth of each version. Each one has different face motions, different lips. It's all there. I mean, also in theory, CG teeth, right? You always forget that it's a hugely complicated thing, because I think we would understand, that's not Shatner's lips and teeth. So it's easy to do a full CG version, but it's being acted so well, right? This is groundbreaking is the right word, and when you express it like this. Now, this is where we get into the things I notice as a guy that's done this before. The next shot is 2 things: real Kirk, real Shatner. What do you think I'm going to highlight, Stuart?
Probably the wrinkles and the hair. I don't know what like. This is a trick question. Why are you asking me?
Yeah, because I want to know if the audience can see it, so I'm here to point it out. Right now, this is where you see a disparity between software and people. If you look at the top of not Kirk's hair, it's 1 layer of sharpness. You look at his sideburn, it is significantly blurry. If you look at William Shatner from Generations, there's the exact same sharpness level on both parts. It's all just hair. But when you compare, it is radically softer. So that is the seam line, and that is where they're blending the CG sideburn and the not CG sideburn, and it's incredibly visible. There's a lack of pixels, and this is from the 4K YouTube version, so this is all the pixels we have, but it's incredibly noticeable on the seam line. Now, it's a very clever seam line, but the fact that you can see the differential, because of course the real footage is presumably in 6 to 8K, the CG is not going to be outputting in 6 to 8K in real time. So often you have to actually blur the live action footage because the fake can only get so good. And this shot, you can see notably the back of Sam's hair, real hair, is sharper Now, not by a lot, but enough for me to notice, than the front of his hair, which is not real hair.
It's a long explanation for me to just go, yes, now I see it, because, yeah, I do. And I see exactly what you're talking about.
And it helps have generations, because it's so damn close, but that's how it should look, that's how it does look. And I'm just noticing, because I also have the exact same problem in my seam lines of my de-aging, the hair, the edge of the hair, you want to keep, when I do de-aging, the software will add darkness to the hair. So you actually want to keep the darkened hair, but the hair is now a low resolution. So I have this problem every single time. So I love seeing it in their version. Who the hell's going to notice it? But it's clearly there, which is why it's amazing the face detail is so good, because that's the wrinkles you'll notice. Although still not quite as sharp as Generations. I mean, it's been sharpened, but it's still not quite as... That's okay, right? The next shot, though, very different lighting. And these two, I said, are almost perfect. I mean, these are a weird angle, an angle you never see, because it's not flattering to most people, and they're bloody incredible. I have not a damn word to say about them. They're absolutely...
Looks fantastic.
It's just fun to see, because it's different use cases, right? This is not a shot you'd normally want to do. Imagine having to tell the CGI model, to focus on the chin. We have to get the under chin right and how it interacts with the... It's stuff you don't tend to do, and front face shots, whatever. Although of course that's obviously Sam's real hair being hit, so they probably changed the seam line a little bit to kind of have more of the. Yeah. But even just like the reflection, because all the little speck highlights, which on my face are here, they're all there and they feel right. But that's not real speck highlights on a real face. That's why it's more difficult, and they've done it so well. And even like on his little stubble, which obviously isn't real stubble, like there is genuine, like he's sweating slightly, right? But he's not.
Yeah.
He's not, Stuart. He's not.
Yeah, that's great.
And in fact, if we go back to Luke for a second, how does the skin sweat level compare? It's not as good.
No, it's not.
It's slightly more plasticky.
Yeah.
Just that little bit. Just want to highlight, and that's the top end of character recreation. But Stuart, you might ask, how is this done?
Prosthetics, and it's being done in real time as well, so they can get real time feedback on how it's looking on camera, which I find fantastic.
That's right, Stuart. How is it done, Sam? Well, the next shot is some behind the scenes that we have been shared. Finally, the actor is revealed on the left. Sam from the Star Wars universe, who plays, Starkiller, Darth Maul, Palpatine in many animated things.
As you've always said, the most difficult thing about refacing somebody is the shape of the face. So I love that they use prosthetics to bulk him up to where Shatner is the general shape, right?
Well, especially if none of the original face is going to remain from a technical sense, then you can modify with big cheek, like, Colin Farrell, I believe his name, who does the Penguin, right? 3 hours of makeup to his face is entirely different. So if you can mess up Sam's face to look not like Sam, but with tests to best apply the CG, then actually it's a really good way of doing it. What's amazing though is the middle shot, and these are all publicly released, so these are all good, despite the NDA there. The middle shot is a screen cap, or is a picture of the monitor. Yeah. So those on set were watching Kirk, and then turning past the lens and saying, "There's Sam, there's Kirk, there's Sam." Real-time rendering, that is absolute madness.
Yeah, that kind of blew me away as well. And seeing some of the footage that's been released on Twitter of that is super impressive.
It also speaks to, now you get into the realms of, you're not guessing and doing in post, but it's the animator's job to kind of tweak the performance. You can actually go in, do it, and these are very short scenes, right? Go in, spend an hour, do a take, do the scene, and at the end of every, say, 2 takes, you come back, you watch it, and then you see Kirk perform. You say, "Oh, I need more chin wobble." You get back from the camera, you chin wobble it up, and you can actually. That's why I think the performance is so good. He said to watch it and refine, or the director was live. That is next level to the next level, right?
So my question is, did they go in afterwards and make tweaks and enhancements?
Probably, maybe. Well, that's the thing. It would be very silly to hard encode the face in the footage. So they should have the footage and the face, but also, like you say that. I was about to say, but you can't render it in real time, the fullest res. But if this is all custom code, you could buy, say, 6 of the newest GPUs, one of which is fast enough to render stuff at a good speed. You connect them all and just run the code, use them all at the same time, in theory, then maybe you could, right? Maybe you could, if it's all built custom. but you expect them to refine it. But then also, then you're suddenly getting in post like layers of face. You have to render all different parts of it. It's complicated, but you'd assume yes, because the right hand side just feels more refined than the low res middle one. For whatever reason, there's a difference. Besides the fact that it's been keyed out. But let's look at TOS Kirk, which I think is my favourite of the three, because I think Sam's physical makeup suits better to TOS Kirk, because this, to me, that middle one is perfect. Like the lighting, the expression, the shape, that is 100% to me.
Yeah, I was surprised to see a TOS Kirk, and again, the pose, the subtlety of the way that the stance is, the arms, so amazingly done by Sam Witwer that it's like, that's Kirk. The only thing that bothers me about this, and I don't know if anybody noticed it, but the zipper pull. They never had the zipper pull in TOS. It was always hidden. That annoyed me.
All of us costumers have that, though.
I know, but it was never in TOS. Gene Roddenberry didn't want zippers, so it was always hidden underneath the thing.
Now, the thing I noticed for this, like I said, really the face is amazing. What I noticed, though, and this is entirely a thing on a thing, is that the hair is not dark enough. Actually, the black level is too bright. He's in a pitch black room. The black looks like an artificial black because they're actually green screening it, this in particular, and they haven't quite, because if you make it any darker, you'd lose the side of the face, you'd lose the hair. They want to see it, but it's too bright. And that's how, to me, I know it's meant to be surrealist, right? But he's too bright. But that's a compositing thing, and you could fix that, but it'd ruin other stuff. So I've made that trade-off before. But yeah. And again, look at the side of his face. Yeah, the nuance. And 3 different expressions.
Mm-hmm.
And even the fact that it's getting the light in the eye from a light source, and that machine was moving and being clever. Yeah, wonderful. Now, I once again found some shots. It took a while, guys, so I hope you appreciate the time. This is 2 similar Kirks to Kirk. Pretty close. I'm trying to get the eyes, right? The face is different, but I think I captured Shatner's eyes. Now, how's Sam Witwer captured Sam's eyes? Because here is the proof.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say. I mean,
there's a magic there, isn't there?
Yeah, they've absolutely hit this out of the park, and I just got to appreciate them for that. So, wow.
But that said, Shatner's jaw is thinner, very slightly. We're looking at the subtleties, right? It's very slightly subtler, and the hair is flowing in a way that Sam's isn't. It's very compressed, part of a chunk of hair, whereas James T, it's varied. So I wonder if the hair was also CG, because it's all kind of one big element. Kirk's is far more granular and interesting. And these are extra things, right? But there is a difference now you put them side by side.
Kirk had some wonky TOS hair days.
He did, but it's all kind of like a unit in the Sam version. But yeah, the eye work is astounding, because there it is. It's absolutely there. Amazing. But let's see some behind the scenes of the TOS. And there's him on set. Not at all Kirk at all.
Well, the hair looks better there.
Yeah.
And I always get a kick out of how the TOS command shirts look in pictures versus, or even in real life versus on camera. It just, and even if you go back to the other ones with him standing in the green screen with the Monster Maroon vest on, it just looks so much different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that was some guy's phone, I think Dave Blass, of the TOS, and the phone side it's a bright yellow. And then they get this beautiful, crisp, what we associate TOS being. But again, that bottom shot is a live view.
Yeah, that's insane. That must have been like so unsettling almost. It's like, am I actually going back in time and looking at William Shatner? Like, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, and if you conceive that the OTOY obviously had an idea one day to make this, and to go from that to watching Kirk on stage, it was different to say, Shatner's voice, which you can kind of clone or whatever, but fresh, young, like that's well, you're groundbreaking, because there has not been a Luke looking that good. Is that the best young version of a character I've seen? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
That's saying something. So I had a few good ones.
Yeah.
Turns out you got to go past the D age and just straight to a new actor.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love the method that they came up with. Prosthetics mixed with this, like, it's a great idea.
Yeah, and then hone it as you need to. I mean, just astounding. But also, I love it just green screen. A lot of the stuff was practical LED wall stuff to get light, but sometimes using a green screen, and there's a green screen. Classic. Speaking of classic, Wrath of Khan Kirk comes in. I'm 95% sure he's just standing on a giant LED wall, light hitting him, which is why it's so interesting and so real.
Now, this one had me thinking, is this just literally like he rotoscoped him out of a scene from Wrath of Khan? Because he doesn't do anything really. He stands there.
Yeah.
And
he expresses.
when we did our live and had everybody in the chat, Sam said this was in fact him and his own costume and whatnot. And that is impressive as hell, because this Kirk to me is probably, well, I'm not going to say the most accurate, but I mean, this one,
You all see things differently, right? So if you want to say that's your favorite, then...
Well, that too, yeah. But we see him for the shortest amount of time as well, I think. And to me, it's just, this is great. So, kudos.
Yeah, this one benefits from it looking weird innately with a shot. But it also shows how hard a lighting that the CG had to cope with. That sucks to have that. But also the fact they achieved it, of course it's really the him there, because it matches. So they've tricked you into believing it by achieving it. But just the stance, my God.
Yeah.
It's so subtle. And the hair is not TOS hair. That is a frizzy... For me, that's the best hair they did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Which got to be a wig piece, because you don't have this... I don't know, right? It's a very different hair. As Shatner felt like different hair from TOS to whatever. But yeah, that look in the right is just... it is so remarkable. And I wonder also maybe if, again, Sam Witwer's face is slightly more of the bulk to fit this versus the older Kirk, which is a bit thicker. So this just fits him better. Yeah. Definitely a still from the show. But not! But let's compare. Again, trying to find angles. And try to capture the sadness of the first and the little glee in the eyes of the second. Because it sounds silly, the eye acting, which is internal, that's an actor bringing a performance for the CG where you can't do that really. You can bring the physicality of an eye as, the reacting to light is going bigger and the eyes are squinting, that's fine, but an actor's bringing his internal dimension to the eyes. What do you think?
As I said, it was the best of the three Kirks for me.
The best of times, it was worst of times? What?
But as you can tell, I mean, by these pictures, as you said, the hair is probably the best of the hair. And again, we didn't see this one do much. Like, he just stood there for... So if we had seen more, I might have noticed different things, but this is almost 100% like just perfect.
Yeah. I would love to see the raw footage of... I'd love to see this just without the white wall. And against the eye, there's just stuff happening. But then they also, because these are all difficult things, we're adding layers, right? Remember, we talked at the start, flat lighting. They keep saying, no, sir. And they keep raising the bar. Now, the next two shots is a very weird one, because now you're like, well, I can do anything, right? Let's do weird lighting. This shot on the left, of course, is from OTOY. So on the right, it's from Generations. I'm trying to get as close as I can to a weird lighting to see how it feels. Feels being the important word. Because in this shot, he's on New Vulcan, and there's a light, there's a physical building stopping light from him directly, so it's kind of bounce light from the floor. It's very weird lighting. Mm-hmm. So we don't have that preconceived, what we think Shatner's going to look like with that lighting. So now we're going full new, which is what I want to highlight. But also, you don't see Generations lighting ever. So how do you feel now? Because there's just weird lighting on weird lighting.
It sells it even more for me, to be honest.
There you go.
It highlights different aspects of Shatner's face that other lighting might not have, and it works. This actually works almost better than the outside lighting that we saw earlier.
See, I like it less because it's not as Kirkian, but it's more Shatnerian. Because I don't have that preconceived what I think Shatner's going to look like. But that works in the regard just looks like a person, right? Because you don't see this from him normally. Really hard lighting to do. Really successful. The subtlety of the... Yeah. And you got to imagine that, his chin is going up and down over the turtleneck. Sometimes if you have a nice clean line. So that's going to be accounted for. And now the next shot, though, is the end of our Kirk, before we get into some Spock stuff. These two, again, I would call basically perfect. These are the two emotive end elements. I mean,
Yep, as I said earlier, when he turned sideways at the end there, I was really impressed with the profile. It definitely, that's what I was looking for, to see if they could get that, because if that's off slightly, it would look wrong. And no, it looks fantastic. Also, the expressions that Kirk gives Spock while he's holding his hands,
they
just
speak 1,000
nailed
words.
it. They do, absolutely.
But both being Shatner or Kirk. I'd love to see Sam act as himself in this, to see how it tonally shifts. You know, having a normal conversation in behind the scenes, and see if like, oh, that feels weird. I guess the voice, I mean, you have to mute it, of course, but like how the mannerisms being different would be different. The only thing I'll say about the left-hand shot is that there's no, and this again, low, I mean, it's close up, but there's only so much resolution on YouTube. There's a lack of hair detail on the eyelashes, because of course the eyelashes are to be CG. There's no eyelash detail, which I often fall into the trap of, because of course it's minute detail. So whereas the hair, you can see all the lovely little threads. There's nothing happening in this portion, which there would be something happening. Mm-hmm. It's not a complaint. I have this problem too, but it's a slightly odd line, right? Because it can only create so much. Although weirdly, the sideburns are different. They're not as pointy in this one.
A little bit, yeah.
We focused on last time, but also the hair's blurry because you can't tell, so it blends in. And of course, Kirk was the surprise guest. We've known Spock for a year now, 2 years now. So let's look at the Spock. Obviously, two Spocks, and the actor who played him, Lawrence in the middle, who, as you can see, pretty similar face shape. Very, very good casting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were impressed when I saw that first one. The Spock footage is really good, all of it. Even the stuff on the motion picture era bridge. Like, they really nailed the Spock aesthetic. But I think Spock would be easier to do than Kirk, because of the structure of his face, I think. I don't know. That's my thought. He's got more of a chiseled kind of square face. So as long as you find somebody with the same face shape, I think it's easier to do Spock than Kirk, because Kirk's got all those micro, like, little expressions and stuff. I don't know.
Although Spock's eyebrow raise was pretty perfect on the right.
Anybody can do that. I know a lot of people that can't raise one eyebrow.
Well, not through a CG mask. So this is interesting to me because I found this in the previous OTOY. Younger Spock, I thought they did better. And there's a gradient of younger Spock. Part of this is, I'm assuming that the Lawrence actor is late 40s, early 50s, right? Nimoy was not. And so they're adding all this wrinkle detail is all entirely digital. And to me, I can read the added detail is not real. And there's a certain blurriness to it that's a little bit noticeable to me, but I'm slightly more trained, right? Like the eyebrows feel soft. There's a certain oomph to this where it hasn't achieved the same fidelity because, of course, it's doing infinitely more to the face versus just, right? So for me, I noticed this a lot more, and that's, I thought, the same thing with the big reveal where, you know, the Spock did that and his face was older. I was like, no, that looks way more fake to me because a lot more work had to be done. Whereas younger, it's like, you nailed it. And this is a very hard spot. This is the end Spock, right? So that's a me thing. I feel like I can see this one a lot more. This more feels like a deep fake applied. But that's the standard's so high, right?
The only time I thought that was when he turned his head to the side to look at the sunset. There's a frame or two where if something feels off when his head's turning. Other than that, I thought they did a really good job with old Spock, actually. He looks like the one from the 2009 film.
But let's compare, though.
There you go. Oh, well, now you see it side by side. Yeah.
Don't do this. Don't put it side by side. Because, of course, Nimoy was an 80-something-year-old man, and he has all of this detail, which an 80-year-old man has. Lawrence does not. So Lawrence has a very young neck and an old face. Nimoy looks a lot older, and they're not very similar. You know, he's more thin, like I said, the neck, deeper lines. So, like I say, it's more of a CG face on top of a younger body. This is what I could sense. But you can't achieve that without hiring a very old man. It's just, you know, maybe some makeup, but then to match the subtlety of like the neck, right? Super difficult. That's why I think younger him works better, because only the last Nimoy had the neck stuff and the age lines. Because up to like 6, even TNG, he was the same actor that we knew, and then he stopped for 15 years, right?
One thing I noticed here is the ear shape. I think And I never liked the way that the ears on Spot kind of started doing this after a while, in like 2009 and stuff. It looks like they've corrected that. Looked like a better Vulcan ear, the OTOY one, which is odd because I know Leonard Nimoy was very, very, very particular about the ear shape thing, but it looks like they've stepped away from that. So
Yeah, I mean, they've probably done the same ear mask as for the Star Trek 6 or 5 or 4, the movie Vulcan. So yeah, I hadn't noticed that, but yeah, they are very, very different. But I'm fine with the non-JJ version. But we end, as they ended, on 2 CGI faces and 2 talented actors portraying an incredibly moment in Trekdom to a very high degree. How do you feel now I've taken through the journey comparatively, and do you have a different appreciation? Do you like it less, more?
kind of learning what, I mean, I was looking for stuff at the second time I watched it, because after the first time I was like, oh wow. Second time I was like, okay, where? And there's 1 or 2 frames that are a little wonky or off or whatever, but overall it's really good. It's interesting learning the stuff that you talked about, but yeah, I don't know. I still think they need to keep doing this kind of thing and just improving on it, because if we're at this level right now, who knows what'll be like in 5 or 10 years. So, and yeah, thanks to OTOY for doing this, because this is fantastic Trek.
I mean, it's astounding. I mean, I've seen hundreds of comments of being emotionally impacted by this, because that's the performance, and that's what the team brought, and that's what this is. It isn't just like in the Flash movie when they brought people's likenesses back, but there was nothing emotive behind their performance. They just were there, so it felt like what it was. Here they are. It was a story for a reason, and everyone understood the motivation behind the piece, as in the actors and it was something different. This is definitely the first of its kind in this regard. I think like Sam Jackson and Miss Marvel, DH stuff, that's probably the best in terms of like, that's a whole film where you can't tell for a single darn frame. But this is like, I mean, the nuance of 3 Kirks, and that's them showing off, right? Yeah, the nuance is astounding, and this will only get better. We've seen stills on the website of other things that they've shot but not seen. And yeah, I'm assuming this all's been in the pipeline for months. So it's very likely the CG lead guy will say, damn it, we fixed problem in shot 6 2 weeks ago. It's better, you know what I mean? There's now probably iterations now already since they made this. So yeah, fascinating. I hope they continue to make stuff, because this is the next generation. Thank you.
Badumch.
Yes.
There you go. All right, guys, comment down below what you thought about the OTOY unification thing. Let us know if you learned anything during this live. Anything you'd want to tell us, anything you noticed, anything we didn't notice or didn't talk about, let us know. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell icon to all. And by all means, come and join us when we talk about this kind of stuff live, because you never know who's going to show up. Like we said, we had a whole bunch of people that worked on this in our live in the chat, chatting with us and answering questions, which was fantastic. So if you want to join us for those, make sure you're notified.
Yeah, and if you want to see more of this type of content, more reactions, more reviews, more analysis, more breakdowns, more stuff that you will not see anywhere else on the internet, then support us via Patreon if you can. It's monthly, or join the channel, also monthly. Even a $5 each month makes a difference. Or one-time donations via Super Chat on a live, say your piece, say hello, say whatnot, etc. Or PayPal if you'd like to help towards show costs and trips, then PayPal is trekyards@hotmail.com. Or super thanks if you enjoyed this video and this breakdown. Click the little money icon, super thanks. I appreciate it a lot. So thank you.
That's right. So until next time, he's Commander Cockings.
He's kind of Foley.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.